We've seen a lot of Hotel Mario memes, even though the game itself is still horrible as it seems. But where are those creative, well-made mashups, which all of us can rely? Lucky there's a mashup guy. He's been making covers, he's a 𝕮𝔬𝔫 lover. There'll be lots of things that'll make us laugh and cry. He's a mash-up guy.
Well, folks, this is it. We have reached the all-time worst of the worst. But before I get started, I just want to thank you all for 4,000 subscribers. Words cannot describe how much this means to me, and I just want to thank all my friends on YouTube and Discord for the amount of support they've been giving me. So, what is today's video? Well, believe it or not, there is a villain who I hate more than Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin. And you know what? This is as low as we can go. I have seen many bad and poorly written villains in my day. But this?
No.
Nothing will ever top this one. We'll get to that in a bit. Also, now I'm changing back into my avatar that I currently use. Just about now. So, shall we get started? If you're a long-time subscriber of my channel, you would know that Mr. Freeze from what used to be my despised movie was originally my hated villain. Well, not anymore. Okay, yes. I hate his ice puns, and I still hate them today. But the only person who is allowed to make ice puns is Olivia, because at least those made me giggle. Despite my huge hatred for ice puns, at least I felt something when it came to Mr. Freeze. I felt a bit of sympathy for him. He had some funny moments when he was making his goons sing while wearing slippers, even though I used to hate that scene. And when he hates when people talk during the movie, like this scene.
I hate when people talk during the movie.
See? That is relatable. Then again, Batman and Robin is one of those movies that was so bad that it's good. So congratulations, Mr. Freeze, you're no longer my hated villain ever. But now he's tied with Jasper Bat Jr. at number 2 of my new updated worst villains list, because they both suck and those were the villains I hated the most. Also, I feel like 𝔬𝔫-𝔭𝔬𝔫 ranted on the Goombas dancing in the elevator scene for no reason, because that scene was actually funny. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, there's a villain I loathe even more. And before I say his name, I'm not going to do this alone. Oh no, I've got another person to join me. In fact, a very good friend of mine hates the same villain as much as I do. Who is he? It's the one and only hero boy. Give it up for Naayle.
Hello there.
Hello everybody, Naayle the Hero Boy is back once again. First off, congratulations 𝔬𝔫-𝔭𝔬𝔫 for reaching 4,000 subscribers. You earned it. You will absolutely gain even more as well eventually.
Thank you very much, Naayle, and I'm glad to have you for this video.
Yup, indeed. Also, before we get to the topic of today's video, I would like to say this. You really need to get on my bad side for me to swear uncensored and have me turn into my angry form. And Surf's Up 2 did. As much as I hated Norm of the North and Ice Age Collision Course, it didn't get on my bad side unlike Surf's Up 2. I am very glad my entire team and I destroyed it. It was well deserved. And then we celebrated by having an awesome party. Also, remember when I said that Surf's Up 2 makes Ice Age Collision Course look like the first Ice Age movie? Well, I changed my mind. I would say that it makes Ice Age Collision Course look like Spider-Man No Way Home. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the first Ice Age movie. It's just that Spider-Man No Way Home is one of my favorite movies of all time. As for when I said it makes Norm of the North look like Revenge of the Sith, I said that because Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars film and another one of the best films I've ever seen. So yeah, Revenge of the Sith and Spider-Man No Way Home are both some of my favorite films of all time. I still think Surf's Up 2 makes the Emoji Movie look like the Lego Movie though. Now back onto the topic of today's video, and about things getting on my bad side as well. Surf's Up 2 is not the only thing that got on my bad side. Something else did. A villain I fucking despise more than any other villain ever. Yes, even worse than Jasper Bat Jr., Snoke, Bane from Batman and Robin, etc. Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin, I did kind of feel sympathy for him. At least even with Jasper Bat Jr., I felt a little sympathy for him because Travis did kill his family. Also, Batman and Robin is now a guilty pleasure of mine. So anyways, prepare to see my full rage once again.
At long last, after a couple of months of me yelling and raging at Mr. Freeze and Batman and Robin as a whole, I have finally found a villain who's just irredeemable, and this gives us a lot of new things to talk about. Too bad Thor: The Dark World is one of the worst movies in MCU's history. But I will say one thing, it's not as awful as my new despised movie, which was more painful to sit through than Batman and Robin. And I know what some of you are thinking right now, how is that even possible? Actually, we'll talk about that for another time. Or to be more accurate, me and Rosalina will talk about why I loathe Eternals with a burning passion. You'll see. But for now, back to the main topic of the video. One of the worst parts of the movie, if not the worst, is one of the most painfully forgettable, cliche, unoriginal, and boring villains I've ever seen in movie history. No! Even better! Of all time. And his name is
Fucking Malekith the Accursed! This fucking villain is now my most despised villain of all time.
Same with mine! What can I say? No, seriously, I am genuinely asking you, what am I supposed to say about this character? So, do I have any positives with this character? Nope, with a capital N. So, what is there to say about Malekith?
Lots of things.
For starters, he is the main antagonist of Thor: The Dark World. This movie is not one of my favorite MCU movies, and Malekith is the worst part of it! He is the cruel and selfish leader of the Dark Elves who plots to plunge the universe into eternal darkness and destroy the 9 realms, so they can be reborn into his image. This character as a whole is incredibly lackluster and forgettable!
I am not really a fan of Thor: The Dark World either. In fact, I think it's one of the weakest MCU films. But the main reason why it's one of the weakest is because of Malekith. Dark World would have just been meh, but Malekith exists, so that's what really makes me have Dark World as one of the weakest MCU films. He is just so fucking boring. He is nothing.
Not only is he cliche, not only is he a doomsday villain we've seen God knows how many times, and one of the least depth characters in all of MCU, but he's a straight rip-off of another Sonic villain we all know. Mephiles the Dark from Sonic 06. Both are pure evil villains who try to kill the protagonist, but there's a difference. One succeeded, and one failed. As bad as the other villains I hate, at least they have 1 or 2 redeeming factors. Malekith, on the other hand, has none. Together, Naayle and I, alongside the 5 villains I voiced in my villain voice acting career, will go in depth on why Malekith is the most boring villain of all time. So, Naayle, are we ready to yell and rage as we go over Malekith's character, villainous acts, criminal record, and what makes him the worst villain ever overall?
You bet I am. Oh, and about those 5 we brought in, they are some of the members on my team as well, and they hate Malekith just as much as we do.
Oh yes! Dark Bowser, Bowletta, Ludwig, Chief Chilly, and King Olly are back again, and they are not happy. And neither are we! Now then, let us begin. Oh boy, you thought my anger towards bad media and horrible characters couldn't get any worse. But sadly, it could. Please remember that it's perfectly natural to get angry at something we despise, and it's 100% justified. Anyways, here is the worst villain I've seen in not just an MCU, but in forever. This character is awful. Malekith has almost nothing I like about him. He's really terrible. Let's talk about him.
If you thought Taskmaster from Black Widow was terrible, get a load of how awful Malekith is. Also, not only is he a ripoff of Mephiles, but he's also a worse version of Infinite. And yes, I do know Infinite came after Malekith. Also, I like Infinite, and he's a much better villain than Malekith.
And you would think the acting would salvage this character, right? Nope, not even that piqued my interest. Christopher Eccleston's role as Malekith is completely wasted. And just like what I said about George Clooney admitting that he hated the role as Batman, Christopher Eccleston, aka the 9th Doctor from Doctor Who, has said that he did not enjoy the role due to the heavy amounts of makeup, requiring 6.5 to 8 hours to apply, and that a majority of his scenes that were to flesh out his character were cut in favor of giving more screen time to Loki. He also admitted that he only accepted the role for the money and the chance to work with Alan Taylor. First Tom Baker in the Magic Roundabout movie, or in the American terms, the god-awful Dougal, Christopher Eccleston in Thor the Dark World, David Tennant in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Matt Smith in Morbius, Peter Capaldi in the Suicide Squad, and then Jodie Whittaker in Saint Trinians? The things these Doctor Who actors and actresses do just to get a paycheck these days. But that's not the only problem that kills this character for us. You see, Malekith is your stereotypical power-hungry tyrant who is one of Thor's personal enemies, given how he was responsible for Thor's beloved mother, Frigga's death.
Also, to start things off, everything he says is just nothing and so boring. Like, listen to this clip.
Who are you?
I am Malekith, and I would have what is mine.
So fucking boring!
Exactly! He's
A nothing villain.
and a boring one too! I don't think this villain is a character at all! It's just an excuse for Thor and Loki to work together! At least Loki has an actual personality, but as for Malekith, he has none! He's just dull, soulless, and barely shows any emotion!
Allow me to list his actions for you. Malekith plans on using the ether to plunge all the cosmos into an everlasting night, bringing death and decay across the universe. After King Bor's army gains the upper hand over his army, Malekith sacrifices his own people in order to save himself, destroying more of his troops than the Asgardians had. He also blames the Asgardians for his men's death when he sacrificed them himself. Furthermore, he is more saddened by losing a legacy than his henchmen themselves. Gosh, pure evil villains who are loved or hated are quite selfish these days, aren't they? He curses his second-in-command Algrim without hesitation or remorse, and he has Algrim pretend to surrender to the Asgardians, thus resulting the deaths of his fellow inmates and guards as he escapes, as well as other criminals being freed. He has several Asgardians killed, destroys Odin's throne with a grenade, and executes beloved Queen Frigga for refusing to tell him where the ether was. Or, to be more accurate, his goons killed Frigga, not Malekith himself. We'll get to that in a bit. Causing Thor to strike Malekith at the right side of his face from the lightning of his hammer. In the process, Asgard is left defenseless when the shields are broken, and the cannon emplacements are crushed on Malekith's orders. After Loki seemingly betrays Thor and cuts his arm off, Malekith sadistically taunts him. Before leaving with the ether, he orders Thor, Loki, and Jane Foster to be slaughtered for righteously getting in his way. He nearly destroys London upon arriving on Earth. During his climactic duel with Thor, he watches him lose his hammer and dishonorably pummels him with a discharge of ether energy while he is unarmed, and finally, he almost unleashes the ether upon the 9 realms.
And guess why Malekith wanted to plunge the universe into darkness? Is it because the universe has no meaning? Everyone laughs at him for how he looks? Or another villain we know is stealing his thunder? Nope! He is willing to do this because light annoys him. Talk about a lame and boring scheme. While not as abysmal as Gavin's motivation from Collision Course, it's still fucking awful.
You bet it is still awful!
Even though Gavin's motivation is Dharma, Malekith is even worse of a villain!
Anyways, now let's introduce some members on my team to rate as well. They also have a big part as well, by the way.
Oh yes, the entire main character cast of the King Olly Show. Starting with King Olly. Alright Olly, make your first appearance on this video. Thank you very much, 𝔬𝔫𝔭𝔬𝔫 and Naayle, for letting me be a part of this. It sure has been a while since me and the rest of Naayle's team destroyed that fucking commercial that is surfs up 𝔬𝔫𝔠𝔢. And here I am, outside of the King Olly Show and the Origami King musical. And remember what I said that Mr. Freeze was my despised villain back in the old days? Yeah, perhaps I've treated him too harshly. But don't get me wrong, he's awful and his ice puns drive me insane. And I thought he was the worst of the worst. But Malekith? He is the most boring villain I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't even have much to say about him because fucking hell, there's just nothing to talk about him. His plan stinks, his design is generic, and he's also a complete coward. And by that, I mean he lets his henchmen do all the dirty work for him. I never thought I would say this, but I'm actually gonna give credit to Mr. Freeze and 𝕉𝔥𝔬𝔢 Jr. At least those villains made me feel something. Mr. Freeze because of his laughable moments, one line we can easily relate to, and I felt a bit of sympathy. And as for 𝕉𝔥𝔬𝔢 Jr., aside from the music, his reasoning of killing Travis's best friend was understandable, because Travis killed his family, like this scene.
Not only did you murder my father, but my two brothers as well. That is why I took your best friend's life.
See? Understandable. Malekith is nothing. No charm, no memorable moments, no likability, no purpose, nothing!
Absolutely nothing.
Hela from Thor Ragnarok is one of the best MCU villains, and she's 1,000 times better than Malekith. While not as awesome and memorable as Loki, Thanos, and especially Green Goblin, she's still up there, that's for sure. Take back what I said about Mr. Freeze being the worst of the worst. Malekith takes the cake. Just nothing but pure boredom. My 4 villainous colleagues, who are also on Naayle's team, are back once again, and let me tell you, audience, they are not happy. But they are happy that Naayle and 𝔬𝔫𝔭𝔬𝔫 invited them in here.
Thank you for inviting me, 𝕬𝔬𝔫, Ludwig and Chief Chilly, you two. Now, where do I even begin? Oh, yes. What the fuck is this I'm looking at right now? Before I begin, the only thing that salvaged President Cooper was this.
Monkey.
That quote was so bad that it's funny. But right now, I'm not laughing because Malekith has absolutely no excuse for being such a terrible villain! There's nothing to enjoy about him. He is worthless. Nothing is earned. He doesn't have any iconic moments or any additional layers of brilliance. There's only one emotion that I get from him. And what does that make me feel? Well, there is one simple answer. No one remembers what happened in For the Dark World in terms of story, characters, creativity, entertainment value, or anything. Well, they do remember Malekith being the worst part of it all. But that's only because he's one of the worst written villains in the whole fucking universe.
Just like what my teammate Dark Bowser said, at least President Koopa was laughably terrible. Honestly, that movie for me in general is now a guilty pleasure as well. But Malekith? He did not make me fucking laugh at all. All he did to entertain me was fucking nothing. He doesn't show any menace at all. Hela is a much better villain. Also, let's compare this. A scene where they make Malekith threatening, but it honestly does not work in the slightest. And a scene where Hela is being threatening and works very well.
Where is the ether?
I'll never tell you.
I believe you.
Darling, you have no idea what's possible.
Exactly! Also, by the way, we will get to a part later on where he makes his people do the dirty work for him.
Malekith is a shit villain. He does nothing in the film, and he barely gets any screen time. I don't even remember what he does, because he is the most forgettable villain all around. The film as a whole didn't help, but I don't ever want to see his ugly face ever again, because if he does, then I shall rip him in half, in one bite, just like I did with the Undertaker penguin.
Combine the fact that Malekith is a terrible villain, a complete coward, and a nothing character, he has some of the most generic and predictable motivations ever. He doesn't care who he has to kill as long as he gets what he wants. And look, we found a new definition of spoiled! Oh, here's something I never noticed until now. His death is not satisfying in the slightest, especially since they weren't even trying and it lacks any sort of impact since it's so forgettable. Before he dies, he says one of the most cliched final speeches for a villain ever.
You think you can stop this? The ether cannot be destroyed.
Oh no!
Okay, I've got a question. Why can't he have a more satisfying death? Also, I cannot be destroyed is something we've seen a million times alongside I Am Perfection and How Could I Lose. Even 𝕬𝔬𝔦 said that line better as she was talking to the Mario Bros. Or in this term, Naayle. Also, I get Hela from Thor Ragnarok says, "You can't defeat me," but at least the moment of that is funny from what comes after. And Hela is one of the best MCU villains. Ragnarok in general is amazing, by the way. While Hela, in our opinion, is not as amazing as Thanos, Loki, and Willem Dafoe Green Goblin from No Way Home, Hela might just be, in our opinion, our fourth favorite MCU villain. As for Malekith, fuck him! I want to see him suffer! As for the scenes with him, what scenes? I can't remember any of them, because all the moments with Malekith are all forgettable as he is. They have put in more effort into the film editing and effects than making Malekith memorable and iconic. As a character, he is atrociously written. His design is unfaithful to the comics and he's a complete wimp as he gets defeated too easily. He ends up getting crushed by his own ship when it was teleported to him by Selvig, like what Ludwig said. We all want to see Malekith suffer. And do you know what the really sad thing is? The writers had intended to flesh out Malekith's character through additional scenes. But it's too bad that those additional scenes had to be cut from the actual film for time. Here's an idea: spend more time on making a villain iconic than making a shit one. That being said, Malekith had some potential, but it was completely wasted. Everything about him is completely wasted.
Not to fucking mention, his voice doesn't even intimidate me at all. It has gotta be one of the most generic villain voices I have ever fucking heard. Take a listen to this.
Darkness returns, Asgardian. Have you come to witness the end of your universe?
I agree big time. His voice doesn't even scare me. It just makes me think, why the fuck would a villain have a voice like that? But his actions don't stop there. Oh, hell no. You know what really grinds my gears? Malekith didn't even kill Frigga. He just made his fucking henchmen do it. Oh, sure, her death was memorable and emotional. But that scene with Malekith and Frigga facing was so fucking boring! It makes you despise Malekith so much! Also, I feel that Malekith's goons are even stronger than Malekith himself. Like that scene where Frigga confronted him. Malekith easily got defeated! She only lost because one of Malekith's goons grabbed Frigga, and Malekith didn't even kill her himself because he is such a weakling! Do the job yourself, you fucking piece of nothingness! To sum all of this up, Malekith is a horrible villain with generic motivations. There is no depth to him. He was never mentioned again, thank God. His design sucks. He stops at nothing to get what he wants. He gets a really unsatisfying death, and he's a complete coward. Oh yeah, sure, other villains let their henchmen do the dirty work for them. For example, 𝔮𝔬𝔦 letting 𝕰𝔬𝔫 do the dirty work from the events of Superstar Saga. But at least they are still awesome villains Naayle has faced. Well, except for Jasper Bat Jr., he still stinks. But with Malekith, he's just not that menacing! Which is why the very last point I'm gonna make, which is highly considered the worst part of all. He is...
But can you believe that even after For the Dark World didn't really do very well, all of us are already thankful that Malekith was never mentioned again?
But wait, we are not fucking done yet. There's more to talk about.
Oh, there is still more to talk about. So let's recap again. Malekith has no personality, no depth, no backstory, no established lore, no overarching story. And as far as Naayle and I know, we know nothing! And unlike the other villains I hate, where they at least tried to give them a backstory, where they came from in terms of purpose, and tried to explain why they appear in the plot, they don't tell us diddly squat with Malekith. He just appeared with no introduction or backstory at all. Not even the simplest kind for the audience, even for Marvel fans. He's just thrown into the movie for no reason other than just for the sake of having a bad guy. So don't tell!
The people who worked on this movie were probably thinking, we don't know what the villain should be for Dark World. Oh wait, how about we make one of, if not the most boring villain of all time? And did they succeed at doing that? Yup!
That's another terrible thing! They didn't even put any effort into this villain! Well, if they want to spend more time by making Malekith memorable before For the Dark World went into production, make him have an intimidating design, have a menacing voice, make more scenes with him, interact with the protagonist, think of an original motive that should be approved, and make him a formidable foe for Thor. They did it with Loki and Hela, why not do it for Malekith? If they wanted Malekith to be pure evil, then at least they should have tried to give him an entertaining yet still sadistic and cruel personality. And that would have been a whole lot better. But they didn't even do that! I mean, come on! Why didn't they do that? I mean, making him the most nothing villain of all time is really, really bad on their part. Just no effort!
They had other opportunities to make Malekith memorable to the audience, but they didn't give a shit to even try. This is completely unacceptable. Just another pathetic excuse to be easily defeated in the laziest way possible by making the audience feel unsatisfied. Hell, I'm way more stronger than this lazy ass villain, and I sound more menacing. Malekith doesn't even try to kill Thor, because he is by far the weakest villain in all of MCU. I know they have done more with him in the comics, but based on the films alone, he's weak, forgettable, and ineffectual. I'm gonna say this again, when dealing with more brand new jam characters, you are once again tarnished by atrocious writing. Soon that media will vanish, along with horrible characters who dwell within. And he too will sleep eternally in the dark power's embrace. This is completely unacceptable. I honestly can't believe this exists.
Looking at a white ceiling while lying down on the floor, or being in an empty void of nothingness, is far more interesting than Malekith. And hey, if someone in your life ever told you that you're the most boring and uninteresting person in the world, remember, at least you're not Malekith from Thor: The Dark World.
Also, when I first watched Dark World, I thought it was pretty weak and forgettable. I still find Dark World mad though. And I forgot Malekith existed for a while. But now I keep remembering him and fucking despise him the more I think of him.
We would have blamed anyone for forgetting his name. I mean, should we? Also, Malekith even sacrificed his own people to keep us all alive. Hell, I've seen plenty of villains who sacrifice their minions for the sake of victory, and most of these villains do it way better. Except when they're being dumb about it. So, either have an army who serve you, or don't. Oh, wait a minute. He doesn't need one, because he is nothing. Please remember that this is the main word for this villain throughout the whole video. Plus, Malekith from the comics and cartoons is 1,000 times better. But here, completely forgot he existed, didn't you?
Just be happy he fucking didn't.
He has no character, no purpose, no personality, no threat, no intimidation factor, no good moments, not even any positive aspects to be found with this villain. He's the most forgettable villain ever. Not just in the MCU movies, but of all fucking time.
Seriously, if anyone is going to be the weak and frail villain in a comic book adaptation, it's Scarecrow, since he attacks you mentally rather than physically.
While I do think Frigga's funeral is one of the better moments in Dark World,
but the way she died was so bad! Especially since Malekith himself wasn't even the one who did it! Seriously, this isn't a realistic fiction where the main villain is a weak and frail mob boss that has to rely on his henchmen due to his physical weakness. We're talking about gods, monsters, infinity stones, and elves in the film. I mean, yes, the film itself is serviceable, but Malekith is revolting! In fact, I'm gonna list some things that Malekith doesn't share with Loki and Hela. He has an understandable motivation that we can sympathize with the way Loki and his issues with Asgard do. He puts specific pressure on the hero getting under Thor's skin. He's a flawed mirror of the hero. He has a personal connection with the hero. He does turn the film into a metaphor. He's an entertaining scenery chewer. And his methods are entertaining.
The lies! They're all lies! The lies are off the charts! Ah! Can't believe you even lied to me like that!
And since Thor and Malekith never interact until the middle of the climax, it leaves a very empty feeling. Exactly! Also, I get that Thor and Hela only interacted in Hela's first appearance and the climax! But at least whenever they did, it felt awesome. And Hela had a great amount of screen time as well. Whenever Malekith and Thor interact with each other, nothing interesting at all. Fucking nothing! Malekith wanting to defeat Thor and plunging the 9 realms into darkness because of reasons was a forgettable motive without any logic or any reason to feel empathy towards him. He wanted to wage war for the sake of waging war, and it couldn't have been more boring. Oh wait, it could. Somehow, Marvel Studios managed to take one of the 6 Infinity Stones and put it in the center of a storyline that nobody cared about. Though there are some poor villains throughout the franchise. Okay, some are poorly written. None come even close to Malekith in terms of lack of excitement or intrigue.
Nothing of Malekith is exciting to me at all. Nothing but boring things to fucking show. There are other awful villains, but never have I seen one on the same level as him.
Again, Loki, Thanos, and Winterfell's Green Goblin are so revolutionary, and it makes me pose a threat, and they are more menacing. And like what Ram just said, Malekith compelling and interesting comic book character. And yet, his design looked even better, and that's what he should have done before 𝔬𝔤 𝕮𝔬𝔫 went into production. There's the Malekith from the movies. I just want to cut myself. Just looking at him with the mask of makeup just looks so sloppy, and his dialogue sounds like shit. He isn't just a nothing villain, and a pointless villain, but he's also fucking useless. And to quote 𝔬𝔫 Exactly! Like I said, Malekith is even worse than Mr. Freeze and Jasper Van Jr. combined. And as with those ones, he actually did something. Well, here, they just don't last to do anything. So what's up with this? It's like the writers don't even know how to write a good villain, and then none of them even raise an eyebrow or raise a hand to object. Once again, a nothing villain to one of the most embarrassing roles in the Ninth Doctor's career. I don't blame Christopher Eccleston, as of course he was the ninth incarnation of the Doctor. But here, there isn't any build-up to this character at all. No wonder he hated the role, just like George Clooney admitting that he hated the role as Batman. Malekith is now my new hated villain too.
Do you see why Thor: The Dark World is one of the weakest MCU movies? Malekith is the reason why. Even the comics show Malekith as a dark reflection of Loki, who's seen as a heartless monster with no redeeming qualities. But his MCU counterpart didn't even try to establish that side of his character. Oh, and the final showdown with him is just piss poor, as this doesn't even feel engaging. And honestly, I would rather watch the laughably bad scenes from Batman and Robin and the hilariously bad Goombas on the elevator scene from the god-awful Mario movie than dealing with Malekith again! Naayle and I despise this villain with a passion. This villain makes me and Naayle mad to no end. And by the time I got bored out of my mind seeing Malekith on the big screen, I was like, okay, this movie is getting horribly boring right now. But then, when we get to the part where Malekith says his boring dialogue, I was like, alright, fuck this.
Also, not only is the final battle piss poor and boring, but Malekith also says this line in the most boring and least scary way possible.
Your universe was never meant to be. Your world and your family will be extinguished!
He doesn't even look like he's trying to be scary!
Fuck it, let's just end this already. What the fuck can I say? Malekith is boring, full stop. Awful writing, awful depiction of the character, forgettable villain, boring dialogue, and a lame motive.
And you know what? This character has officially gone to fuck you territory.
So, if you don't know anything about this, you're about to know now. Malekith bored me beyond belief. There's no reason why he's in the movie. And this is not how they write a good villain with good qualities. And the end result wasn't satisfying for me and Naayle.
And as far as I know,
they better do Malekith right, goddammit. Do this character right. If not, then don't put him in the fucking movie! Literally, the only thing they got right is his lack of redeeming qualities, and even then that's a double-edged sword, since a purely evil character can be amazing if done right. But MCU Malekith is a pure evil villain done completely wrong! If Malekith and Hela were battling each other, Hela would win by a massive landslide!
Yeah, Malekith bored me so fucking much, he doesn't do anything to entertain me at all. He is...
so fucking awful! There is not a single fucking thing I can say about this villain. Also, I would like to mention this. I fucking feel that Malekith's henchpeople are stronger than him. Here's why. In this scene where Frigga confronted Malekith, Malekith easily lost to Frigga in a one-on-one battle. The only reason why Frigga lost is because one of Malekith's henchpeople grabbed her, and Malekith made his henchpeople kill her. He should have done that himself. What the fuck? Normally, I hate it when you get these cliches like that, and this is easily the worst of all of them.
That's interesting to know because...
I too can turn into my dark form when I get angry, and you will like me when I'm angry. But your guys are done! I'm officially done! Watch this, man! We are done! We are officially done talking about Malekith! There is nothing else to say! Bottom line, Malekith is now my most despised villain of all time, who is worse than Mr. Freeze, just about Junior, and the other villains I despise! And as horrible as those villains were, at least they didn't put me to sleep! Malekith represents how to not write an entertaining, memorable, and well-written villain, as they did the unthinkable by making him the complete opposite of that. Malekith has all the problems you would expect from a terrible villain. Poor writing, not enough screen time, and a waste of a great actor. Yes, the unthinkable happened.
But the thing that makes him the all-time worst of the worst is that he represents all these terrible characteristics dialed up to 11. While he does not have any redeeming features either, not a single positive aspect to be found at all. Not one. And just like Bowsette, President Cooper, the fish-milking scene, Cody's face transplant, and Peter Griffin's smashed face, this pathetic excuse for villain should also be deleted.
Again, there are one-dimensional villains, and then there's minus 50-dimensional villains. And guess what? Malekith is one of them. I know they put him in there to either A, give the movie a conflict, or B, to make the story happen. But that's not an excuse to make him so boring to sit through. Enough said. Originally, they were gonna give Malekith a sympathetic backstory with him losing his family to Asgard, but all of that was thrown away because Loki is popular. So they devoted the screen time that was originally supposed to be for Malekith to Loki.
And you know what the worst part is? Other than the fact that he's literally nothing, the worst part of all is that it could have worked as a way to make him more ruthless. But it is fucking wasted due to how boring he is, and we don't care about what he does. Malekith's boring existence is just disgraceful, disgusting,
despicable! Oh, the indignity!
To sum up, Malekith is not only the worst Thor villain, but also the worst MCU villain, the worst superhero villain, the worst live-action villain, the worst movie villain, but he is also the worst villain ever made. This character can rot in the deepest depths of hell. Fuck Malekith forever. No wonder he was never mentioned again. So in conclusion, Malekith is an irredeemable piece of fucking shit that you should avoid at all costs. Not only is he forgettable villain with no redeeming qualities all the way through, but he is once again the most boring villain ever made. But we're still not even done, because we haven't talked about the punishment. I'll tell you what he got. He got what he fucking deserved. Right, Naayle? You bet. Also, Malekith would have at least had a positive if he fucking killed Frigga himself. But no. Instead, he made his henchpeople do it. He had the perfect opportunity to do that himself. Well, to be fair, I did feel emotion of Frigga's death. It is one of the better moments in Dark World. I am still mad that Malekith didn't kill her himself. He is very weak. He only won because one of his henchpeople grabbed her. By the way, let's say you always hated Malekith as a villain in Dark World, but when you see Malekith in the comics, you then hate him even more in Dark World and say, what the fuck did they do to him? Even Mr. Freeze was willing to do the work himself. You know, like a main villain sword. But enough explanation, because it is time to summon two villains from the Sonic franchise to destroy Malekith once
A few moments later.
There you are. Thank you for coming all the way here to this important meeting we're about to go over.
I have returned to give bad media a one-way ticket to oblivion. First things first, why did you call us here?
Because if so, you better have an explanation.
As a matter of fact, I do. Listen, I need you two to do me and Naayle a favor.
Is that so? Now, exactly what is this target me and Infinite are going after?
You see, I need you two to go after the worst villain to ever exist.
Oh really? Who is it? And when can I kill it?
His name is Malekith. He is a disgrace to villains everywhere. And do you know what else? He is a ripoff of you, just trying to steal your thunder.
This foolish elf will drown in darkness for daring to be a ripoff of me.
Good! Because that is what I want you to do. The same goes for you, Infinite. I want you to destroy him too.
This wasn't part of my agenda, but I'm always happy to destroy a villain who is boring and terrible. It shows that terrible villains should never exist. There'll be no hope for them ever.
Malekith is nothing more than a weak and pathetic fool.
I wouldn't even need to exert the power of the Phantom Ruby to destroy this wimp.
Exactly. He'll get what he fucking deserves. So go out and give him a taste of your own medicine.
Delighted to oblige.
As you wish.
Your universe was never meant to be. Your world and your family will be extinguished!
Too pathetic to remember.
Finish him!
Fatality.
Flawless victory.
Well, that's Malekith taken care of, and we don't have to see his ugly face ever again.
Before we wrap things up, how would you two like to be members of my team?
Fine. But everything I do will be on my terms. I will only help out when it's convenient for me.
That would be awesome. And like what Mephiles said, I will only help when very necessary reasons, like what we just did. But spending time with you and the rest of your team will also be really fun. We're in. Thanks, Naayle.
This will be amazing. Thank you, Naayle.
You're welcome, guys. Anyways, yeah, Malekith is really a horrible disgrace villain, especially when you compare him to his comic counterpart. Similar thing happened with Taskmaster, who also got butchered in Black Widow. But at least Taskmaster had potential, even though she ended up being a big waste and my second most hated MCU villain. But Malekith is still worse and overall my most hated villain ever.
Yeah, I hate him too. Thank you, King Olly, Dark Bowser, Bowletta, Ludwig and Chief Chilly. I'm glad to have the 5 of you back again to join me rant on bad media once more.
Yeah, it was such an honor.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yes, but then again, Malekith got more than he deserved. Exactly.
I think he deserved that punishment. Don't you?
I agree. Good riddance.
And guess what? Douche from Sausage Party is no longer 𝕮𝔬𝔫-𝔭𝔠𝔻's hated villain. He found a villain worse than him. Who is it? Well, find out in his upcoming top 10 worst villains list. Anyways, we better get going now. See you all next time for the 4th episode of the King Olly Show.
To be fair, there are people who found a villain worse than Malekith. Nathan Files, Bane from Batman and Robin, Chad Peterson, Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and David the Music Man, Gideon Hask from Star Wars Battlefront 2. Well, Naayle, Malekith is finally dead, and we don't have to deal with him anymore because the world can live in peace and harmony now. Don't you agree?
Oh hell yes, I 100% agree. As for Dark World in general, I suggest you just skip that movie and watch Ragnarok, since that movie is fantastic and way better than Dark World, even though there are some important scenes in Dark World. But I still say skip it, because I don't want you to witness the most boring and worst villain ever. Even without Malekith, Dark World is a meh and one of the weakest MCU films, at least in our opinion, though Malekith makes the film way worse.
Before we go, Super Mario Characters Good to Evil is the next video for Super Origami Kingdom, as a lot of you have been waiting for this for a long time. The next video on my channel is another project that you also have been waiting for a long time. The 4th episode of the King Olly Show, starring, you guessed it, Mario and Bowser. And just like episodes 1 and 3, except 2, Dark Bowser, 𝕬𝔬𝔫, Ludwig and Chief Chilly will return once again, as they, alongside Olly, are the main characters in the whole show. And there will be a mystery guest coming to episode 4. Also, from now on, we are doing less rants and more positive videos. Furthermore, there will be an upcoming video on my channel, and that will be my honest opinions on Super Mario Sunshine. And what do I think of that game? Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. But you'll see what I think of this game. Lastly, thank you all once again for 4,000 subscribers. Thank you for supporting me. That means a lot. We should do stuff like this together again another time.
Of course. It is my honor. And we can absolutely do stuff like this again. Anyways, that will be all for this video. Time for me to introduce Mephiles and Infinite to the other members of my team. And then we can throw a party. But right after we destroy all engines go. Anyways, see you all next time. Alright, Mephiles and Infinite, time for you guys to meet the other members on my team.
Remember!
Reality is an illusion, the universe is a hologram. Bye, Gold. Bye!
Thank you so much, 𝕬𝔬𝔫. I love you. Yeah. You will always be in my heart.
Malekith.
Fuck.